The chamber smelled of cold metal and burned ozone. A place where screams were never recorded and mercy was never written into law. The alien princess stood in the center with her hands bound in energy cuffs. Her scales dulled from days without light. Her breathing shallow as she waited for the end she had been taught since birth to expect. She had been captured during the Battle of Kari's Drift, when her diplomatic warship was boarded by human forces. The galaxy whispered that humans were brutal, efficient, creatures of war who smiled only when their enemies begged. Every lesson she had learned told her the same truth. A human soldier would not hesitate, would not ask, would not care that she was royal blood, only that alien law had marked her expendable. The door opened with a low hiss, heavy boots echoed across the floor. Slow, deliberate. Each step felt like a countdown inside her chest. She lifted her chin, forcing herself not to tremble. If she was going to die, she would die as a princess. The human entered alone. No execution squad, no weapons raised, no shouting orders, just one soldier in dark armor marked by old scars and faded insignia. His helmet tucked under his arm. His face visible, human eyes sharp but tired, not burning with hatred like she expected, but heavy, as if he carried too many memories already. He stopped a few paces away. The energy cuffs hummed softly between them. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. So this is how it ends, she thought. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She prepared herself for pain, for the cold efficiency of a species that conquered through battle and never looked back. The human soldier looked at her hands, then at her face, and for a moment something flickered in his expression, hesitation, conflict, something dangerously close to regret. Alien law required her execution. As a princess of a hostile empire, she was considered a living weapon, a symbol that could ignite rebellion. The order had been clear, clean, absolute. She spoke first, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. "Do it, human," she said. "Better death than humiliation." The words surprised even herself, but she would not beg. She would not give the galaxy that satisfaction. The soldier exhaled slowly, as if she had pressed on a wound that never healed. He crouched instead of drawing a weapon, lowering himself to her level, the metal of his armor creaking softly. "You really think I came here to kill you?" he asked quietly. Her eyes narrowed, confusion breaking through her fear. "Is that not your fate-bound duty?" she replied. "Your warships burn our skies. Your soldiers break our lines. Your kind follows law without mercy." He gave a humorless smile. "If that were true," he said, "I wouldn't be here alone." The silence returned, heavier than before. She studied him now, really looked, the small tremor in his hand, the faint scar across his cheek, the exhaustion etched into his face. This was not a monster from propaganda. This was a man. He stood and turned away, tapping a control panel embedded in the wall. The energy cuffs dissolved with a sharp crackle. Her hands dropped free, numb but unbound. Her breath caught, panic flooding her senses. "What trick is this?" she demanded, her tail flicking instinctively. "Are you testing my reaction before execution?" He shook his head slowly. "No tricks, princess," he said. "Just a choice." A choice was a dangerous word in a galaxy ruled by fate and law. He faced her again, eyes locked onto hers. "I was ordered to end you," he admitted. "But I've spent enough years watching law turn children into targets and mercy into weakness." Her heart pounded. This was impossible. Humans did not disobey orders. Humans did not spare enemies, not according to everything she had been taught. "If you free me," she said cautiously, "your people will hunt you. Your law will brand you traitor." He nodded once, already did, the moment I walked in here without a rifle. Something shifted inside her. Something fragile and terrifying. "Hope. Why?" she whispered, the question slipping out before she could stop it. He hesitated, then answered honestly, "Because destiny doesn't always come wearing orders. Sometimes it looks like a terrified princess waiting to die for a war she didn't start." Alarms suddenly wailed through the corridor, red lights flashing. The warship shuddered as distant weapons fire echoed through the hull. The battle outside had reignited, fate refusing to stay quiet. The soldier grabbed his helmet, urgency snapping into place. "We don't have much time," he said. "Rescue craft is gone, and my command won't stop until one of us is dead." Her pulse raced, fear mixing with something new. Trust. You are choosing exile, she said, disbelief thick in her voice. He met her gaze, steady and unflinching. I'm choosing you. In that moment, standing on an enemy warship shaking under fire, the alien princess realized something the galaxy had never understood. Humans were not terrifying because they killed without mercy. They were terrifying because sometimes they didn't, and fate itself trembled when they chose otherwise. The corridor outside the chamber pulsed red as warning lights bled across metal walls. The warship groaned like a wounded beast, each distant impact sending vibrations through the floor and up her legs. The alien princess followed the human soldier without fully understanding why she trusted him. Only that standing still meant death and moving meant possibility. He moved with practiced urgency, not rushing, not panicking, every step measured, every turn anticipated, as if the ship itself whispered its dangers to him. He handed her a compact cloak torn from a supply rack. Wrap this around your shoulders, he said softly, your markings will draw attention. She obeyed, fingers trembling as she pulled the fabric tight. Her heart hammered in her chest. This was madness. Escape was not part of her fate, not written in prophecy, not allowed by law. They reached an intersection where the corridor split into three. Voices echoed ahead, sharp alien commands layered with human calm chatter. The soldier stopped instantly, raising a hand, his body becoming a shield without thought, pressing her back into the shadow of a bulkhead. She could feel his breathing, steady despite the danger. She could smell the faint scent of oil and ozone clinging to his armor. The nearness made her pulse spike, not from fear alone, but from the strange safety of his presence. Two figures passed, armored guards of her own empire. Their eyes scanning for intruders, their weapons humming with lethal charge. She held her breath, afraid her very heartbeat would betray them. The soldier waited until the sound faded, then turned. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. A silent agreement, survive together or not at all. You should hate me, she whispered as they moved again, her voice barely audible over the alarms. My people killed yours, burned your colonies, shattered your warships. He didn't look back as he answered, hate takes energy I can't afford anymore, and it doesn't save anyone. The words struck her harder than any weapon. Her culture revered honor through dominance, survival through obedience. Mercy was weakness. Yet here was a human soldier who had defied both war and law with terrifying calm. They reached a maintenance lift, its door dented from previous combat. He pried it open manually. Sparks showered briefly as the system protested. He ushered her inside and sealed it just as weapons fire cracked down the corridor they had left. The lift shuddered as it descended, darkness swallowing them except for a single emergency light. Her reflection flickered across his visor. She looked smaller than she felt, stripped of royal symbols, reduced to a frightened being clinging to survival. What happens if we escape? She asked quietly, the question heavy with everything she had lost and everything she might gain. He leaned against the wall, eyes closing for half a second. Then we run, he said, until the galaxy decides whether it wants to hunt us or learn something new. The lift slammed to a halt, throwing her forward. He caught her instinctively, his grip firm but careful, as if afraid of breaking something fragile. Her breath hitched at the contact, unfamiliar warmth flooding her senses. She pulled back quickly, flustered. Forgive me. I am not accustomed to being caught, she said. He gave a faint smile. Yeah, I figured. The doors creaked open onto a hangar scarred by battle. Smoke curled through the air. A disabled shuttle sat tilted on its landing struts. Its hull scorched, distant explosions shook the far end of the bay. That's our way out, he said, pointing. Her hope faltered. That craft cannot survive hyperspace in its condition. It doesn't need to, he replied, just needs to get us off this warship. As they ran across the hangar, turrets rotated overhead, locking onto movement. Alarms screamed louder. The warship's AI had identified them as fugitives. Law now branded them both enemies. Energy fire erupted from above, bolts scorching the floor near her feet. Fear surged. She stumbled, and without hesitation he lifted her, carrying her with surprising strength, armor whining under the strain as he sprinted. Hold on, princess, he shouted. She wrapped her arms around his neck, heart racing, pressed against him as the world blurred. Every impact felt closer. Every second stretched thin. They reached the shuttle. He slammed her inside, sealing the hatch as fire struck the hull. The cockpit was cramped, systems flickering wildly. He strapped her into the co-pilot seat, fingers flying across controls. The shuttle lurched upward, tearing free of the hangar just as the bay erupted behind them. Debris spinning past the viewport, stars flashing into view. But escape was not so easily granted. A pursuing warship locked onto them, weapons charging. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The alien princess looked at the human soldier, fear and awe colliding in her chest. "You risk everything for me," she said, her voice breaking. "Why does a single life matter so much to you?" He met her gaze, hands steady on the controls despite the danger. "Because every war starts when we decide one life doesn't matter. And I'm done feeding that fire." The enemy weapons fired, space ignited with light, and as the shuttle screamed toward the unknown, destiny tightened its grip, reshaping itself around a choice neither of them could undo. The stars stretched into violent lines as the shuttle pushed its failing engines beyond safe limits. Alarms shrieked in layered tones that scraped her nerves raw. The alien princess gripped the armrests as space twisted around them, her breath shallow, her thoughts racing faster than the vessel itself. Behind them, the pursuing warship grew larger on the display, its silhouette unmistakable, angular and predatory, weapons charging with a glow she knew too well. This was not a patrol ship. This was an executioner, sent to erase mistakes and make examples. The human soldier swore under his breath, rerouting power with a precision that bordered on instinct. His jaw clenched, eyes fixed forward, but she could feel the strain rolling off him like heat. "They won't stop," she said quietly, her voice heavy with certainty. "My people do not forgive broken law, especially not when royal blood escapes." He nodded once. "I know," he replied. "That's why we can't just run." She turned to him sharply, fear flaring. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, the shuttle shuddered violently, a near miss tearing through their shields. The hull screamed. Lights died and reignited. The universe outside spun wildly. He fought the controls, veins standing out in his hands. "We're heading for the veil," he said. Her eyes widened, genuine terror breaking through her composure. "The veil is forbidden space. Ancient, unstable, full of ruins and signals no one understands. Ships disappear there." "Exactly," he said grimly. "It's the one place they'll hesitate to follow." "Hesitate does not mean stop," she whispered. The stars ahead darkened unnaturally as they crossed an invisible boundary. Colors warped. Gravity pulled at her bones in ways that made her head swim. Whispers brushed the edges of her mind. Not words, but impressions, grief, longing, echoes of something long dead. She gasped, clutching her chest, feeling a strange resonance pulse through her markings beneath the cloak. The veil was reacting to her, or she to it. "You feel that too, don't you?" he asked, glancing at her briefly. She nodded slowly, fear giving way to something older, something buried in memory and myth. "My people say the veil is alive, that it remembers those who were lost in the first wars, that it judges those who enter." The shuttle lurched again, systems flickering erratically. The pursuing warship slowed at the boundary, weapons dimming as its commanders argued with instinct and superstition. For a moment, there was silence. In that fragile pause, the alien princess felt the weight of everything she had been taught begin to crack. She looked at the human soldier, really looked, the man who had defied law, fate, and now even the void itself for her. "Why me?" she asked softly, not as an accusation, but as a plea for understanding. "Why risk oblivion for someone you just met?" He didn't answer right away, guiding the shuttle deeper into the veil, where ancient wreckage drifted like ghosts, massive structures half dissolved by time, technology that predated known civilizations. Finally he spoke. "Because you looked at me like you were already dead," he said quietly, "and I know that look too well." Her throat tightened. "I do not understand." He exhaled slowly, eyes reflecting the broken stars outside. "I've stood on too many battlefields where surrender meant nothing, where law decided who deserved to breathe. I survived because someone once made the wrong choice for the right reason." She listened, every word settling deep inside her. Her people spoke of destiny as something imposed, unavoidable. Yet here was a human who treated it like clay to be reshaped by will. The veil pulsed again, stronger this time, lights dancing across the cockpit, strange symbols flaring briefly on dormant panels. Her markings burned with warmth, not pain, recognition. She cried out softly, doubling over as images flooded her mind. Ancient halls, crystalline thrones, her ancestors standing before beings of light and shadow, forging oaths with forces older than stars. He caught her as she slumped, concern etched across his face. "What's happening to you?" She struggled to breathe, voice trembling with awe and fear. "The veil knows me," she whispered. "My bloodline was bound to this place. We were meant to guard something, not rule through fear." The truth hit her like a blade. Her empire's law, its cruelty, it's endless. Wars, they were deviations, corruption layered over forgotten purpose. The pursuing warship edged closer, its commanders forced by pride and law to continue the chase, weapons flickering uncertainly as the veil interfered. The human soldier looked between the enemy on the screen and the trembling princess in his arms, tension sharpening every line of his body. "If your people learn this," he said carefully, "they won't just want you dead, they'll want you erased." She met his gaze, eyes glowing faintly with veil light. "Then we must not let them decide our fate." The shuttle drifted past a colossal ruin, its surface etched with symbols matching the patterns now visible on her skin. The veil hummed like a living heartbeat. Behind them, the enemy warship crossed the threshold at last. Space screamed. The veil reacted violently, energy surging, ancient defenses awakening, and as reality itself began to fracture, the alien princess realized something terrifying and profound. Her rescue was not an accident. It was the beginning of something the galaxy had tried to bury, and the human soldier was standing at the center of it with her, whether fate liked it or not. The veil erupted around them like a storm waking from a long sleep, light folding inward and outward at once. Ancient energy surged through the shuttle, tearing alarms into static and turning gravity into a shifting suggestion rather than a rule. The alien princess clutched the console as visions intensified, not just memories now but voices layered across time. The pursuing warship screamed as its hull twisted under forces it was never built to endure. Sections of armor peeled away like leaves. Weapon systems flared and died, its commanders shouting orders that meant nothing in a place where law had no authority. The human soldier fought the controls, teeth clenched, muscles straining as the shuttle was dragged toward the heart of the disturbance. His armor sparked as unknown energy coursed through the cockpit, reacting not only to her but to him as well. "Something is pulling us," he growled, rerouting power that no longer obeyed conventional logic. "Yes," she whispered, eyes wide with dawning horror and wonder. "It is calling us." The veil opened. Not a hole, not a gate, but a revelation. Space peeled back to reveal a vast structure suspended in nothingness, colossal and elegant, forged from light and shadow intertwined, symbols blazing across its surface like living script, the same patterns now burning clearly along her arms and crest. The shuttle was drawn in gently, almost reverently, settling into a chamber that felt more like a cathedral than a machine. Silence fell suddenly, heavy and absolute. The princess staggered to her feet, breath stolen by the sight before her. "This is the heart," she whispered, "the place of oath and remembrance, lost even to our oldest records." Before the human soldier could respond, the chamber awakened. Figures emerged from the air itself, tall, luminous shapes without clear form, their presence pressing against the mind more than the body, ancient, patient, impossibly old. "Guardians," she breathed, dropping instinctively to one knee. The soldier stiffened, hand moving toward a weapon that no longer mattered. "What are they?" he asked, voice steady despite the impossible before him. "Not what," she replied softly. "Who?" The guardians spoke without sound, their words blooming directly inside their thoughts, layered meanings unfolding all at once. "We remember the covenant," they echoed. "We remember the blood bound to mercy." The princess froze, confusion rippling through her awe. Blood bound to mercy was a half-forgotten phrase, a fragment of legend dismissed as allegory. The light shifted. One of the guardians turned toward the human soldier, its attention focusing with sudden intensity, ancient symbols igniting across his armor. Then beneath it, glowing faintly along his skin, he gasped, dropping to one knee as a searing warmth spread through his chest. "What is this?" he demanded, pain and shock breaking through his control. The princess stared, heart pounding as recognition slammed into her like a tidal wave. "You," she whispered, trembling, "you are marked." The guardian's presence deepened, their voices resonating with something like sorrow and relief intertwined. Long ago, when the first wars threatened to erase all futures, two bloodlines were chosen, one to guard power, one to restrain it, one alien, one human, bound not by dominance, but by choice. The soldier looked up sharply, disbelief etched across his face. "Human," he said. "That's impossible. Humans weren't spacefaring then." "You were watchers," the guardians replied, "scattered among the stars, seated where conflict would rise. Your blood remembers what your history forgot." The truth detonated inside her mind. The reason humans unsettled the galaxy. The reason their mercy terrified empires more than their weapons. They were not late to the stars. They were early.
"You freed me," she said slowly, voice shaking, "not just as a soldier, but as a key." He met her gaze, stunned. "Then you weren't just a prisoner." "No," she answered, rising to stand beside him, fear giving way to fierce clarity. "I was the lock." The guardians shifted, the chamber responding to their awakening. The covenant demands renewal. They intoned, "The galaxy has strayed. Law without mercy has bred endless war. Power without restraint has hollowed destiny." Outside the veil, alarms echoed faintly as the damaged warship struggled, its commanders unaware that they were no longer chasing fugitives. They were approaching judgment. The princess felt the weight of her lineage settle fully upon her, not as chains, but as purpose. "My people twisted the covenant," she said, grief lacing her words. "We ruled through fear instead of balance." The soldier stood with effort, pain fading into resolve, and mine forgot who we were supposed to be. We became soldiers instead of guardians. The guardians turned to them both, then choose again. The chamber trembled as ancient mechanisms awakened, pathways of light unfurling like wings, the veil itself responding to their presence. The princess reached for the human soldier's hand without thinking, their fingers interlaced naturally. Power surged, but did not burn. It settled, calm and focused. "Together," she said, voice steady despite the enormity before them. He squeezed her hand once, a human gesture grounding the impossible together. Beyond the heart, the veil began to move, not violently this time, but deliberately, ancient defenses aligning, signals spreading outward faster than light. Across the galaxy, dormant systems stirred, forgotten ruins awakened, and laws written in blood and fear began to crack. The pursuing warship crossed the final boundary into the heart's shadow. And for the first time in centuries, fate did not ask who had the right to rule. It asked who had the courage to choose mercy. The moment the pursuing warship crossed fully into the heart's shadow, the veil reacted like a living thing wounded too many times, space folded inward, ancient lines of force snapping into place. The damaged vessel lurched violently as if caught in an unseen current, its commander shouting orders that dissolved into panic. Across the galaxy, consequences rippled outward. Hyperlane beacons flickered, then went dark, long dormant ruins buried beneath oceans and deserts awakened, emitting signals older than recorded history. Empires paused mid-battle as sensors screamed warnings they could not interpret. Something vast had shifted, and no law could command it back into silence. Inside the heart, the princess staggered as the weight of countless voices brushed her consciousness. Fear, hope, rage, prayers from species who had never known mercy. She gasped, clutching her chest, feeling the covenant awaken fully through her blood. "They feel it," she whispered, eyes wide with terror and awe. "The galaxy knows something has changed." The human soldier tightened his grip on her hand, steadying her as the chamber shook. "Then we don't have much time," he said, "because when powers feel threatened, they don't ask questions, they fire." The Guardians' forms flared brighter, tension rippling even through beings older than stars. "The broken laws will resist," they warned, Those who rule through fear will attempt to destroy the heart. As if summoned by the words, new contacts flared into existence on the shattered tactical display, warships, dozens of them, alien and human alike, fleets responding to emergency signals, drawn by panic and ambition, converging on the Veil from every direction. Her breath caught. "My people's high council," she said softly, "and others, rivals, allies, predators, they will not listen, they will see this as a weapon." Outside, the first enemy warship fired blindly into the Veil, its weapons tearing at reality itself. Energy backlash tore the ship apart in a silent explosion that sent shockwaves rippling outward, debris scattering like ash. The display filled with chaos, ships hesitating, then pushing forward anyway, law and pride forcing them onward despite mounting losses. The soldier stared, grim understanding settling into his features. They're willing to burn the galaxy rather than lose control. The princess closed her eyes, pain threading through her voice. "This is what my empire became. Guardians turned tyrants, protectors turned executioners." The guardians shifted, ancient mechanisms awakening deeper within the heart. The covenant was never meant to rule, they intoned. It was meant to remind. If they refuse remembrance, balance will be enforced. The chamber trembled harder, beams of light lanced outward from the heart, piercing the veil and racing across space, touching distant systems, disabling weapons mid-fire, freezing entire fleets in place as if caught in time. Across the stars, admirals screamed in fury and terror as their controls went dead.
Soldiers stared at darkened targeting screens. Battles stalled. Wars paused. The galaxy holding its breath. The princess cried out as the strain intensified, dropping to her knees, the power coursing through her blood threatening to tear her apart. "I can feel them resisting," she gasped. "They are trying to break the covenant through me." The soldier knelt beside her instantly, wrapping his arms around her as the floor shook, grounding her with human warmth and stubborn presence. "Hey, stay with me," he said fiercely. "You're not alone in this." She looked up at him, tears streaking her scales, voice trembling. "I was raised to believe mercy was weakness, and now mercy may cost everything." He met her gaze without hesitation. "Then let it cost something worth paying." The guardian's attention snapped to him, their ancient awareness sharpening. "The human remembers," they said, "choice over command, compassion over control." A surge of hostile energy slammed into the veil, coordinated fire from multiple fleets attempting to overload ancient defenses. The heart flared violently, cracks of blinding light racing along its surface. The princess screamed as the backlash hit her, bloodline and artifact bound too tightly. "I can't hold it much longer," she cried. "They are tearing at the covenant itself." The soldier stood, placing himself between her and the raging light without thinking, armor glowing, markings blazing brighter beneath his skin. "Then take it from her," he shouted, "bind it to me too." The guardians hesitated for the first time in eons. To share the covenant is to risk extinction. They warned human bodies were never meant to carry this burden. He didn't flinch. Then let extinction mean something. The decision rippled through the heart. Energy surged, slamming into him like a star going nova. He roared as ancient power burned through muscle and bone. Memories not his own flooding his mind. Civilizations rising and falling. Wars averted and wars unleashed. Mercy chosen and mercy denied. The princess screamed his name as he collapsed, the covenant splitting its weight between them. Across the galaxy, the veil pulsed one final time. Entire fleets were forced out of hyperspace, weapons permanently disabled, laws encoded into imperial networks shattered, ancient treaties resurfaced, rewritten not by fear, but by enforced pause. The wars did not end, but for the first time they were interrupted. Inside the heart, the princess cradled the unconscious human soldier, tears falling freely now, whispering promises she had never been allowed to make. Around them, the guardians watched silently as the galaxy reeled. The age of unchecked law was breaking, and every empire would soon have to decide, adapt to mercy, or be remembered as the ones who tried to kill it. Silence followed the storm, not peace, but the heavy quiet that comes after something irreversible has been done. The heart dimmed from blinding radiance to a steady glow, its vast chamber scarred with fractures of light that pulsed like slow breathing. The alien princess knelt on the cold, luminous floor, cradling the human soldier as if holding the last fragile thing in a breaking universe. His armor lay split and blackened, systems dead, the markings beneath his skin still glowing faintly, then dimming, then flaring again in uneven rhythm, like a heartbeat struggling to remember its purpose. "No, no, stay with me," she whispered, pressing her forehead against his, her voice shaking. "You chose me, you don't get to leave now." The guardians watched, their ancient forms quieter than before, diminished not in power, but certainty. The burden has been shared. One of them said gently, "The covenant lives through them both." "That is not enough," she snapped, raw grief tearing through her composure. "I did not ask for a symbol. I asked for him." As if in answer, his chest rose sharply, a ragged breath tearing free. He coughed, eyes fluttering open, unfocused at first. Then finding her face, "Hey," he rasped. "Guess I really overdid it this time." A broken laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Tears streaming freely now. "You idiot human," she breathed. "You nearly burned yourself out of existence." He tried to smile, failing, but his eyes softened. "Worth it," he murmured. Outside the heart, the galaxy convulsed. Emergency transmissions flooded every channel. Fleets stranded with dead weapons, governments screaming accusations into the void, ancient systems reactivating without permission. The Veil's signal spreading not as domination, but as undeniable truth. Something older than empire had returned. The princess felt it all pressing against her consciousness. The cries of rulers who had built their power on fear. The confusion of soldiers suddenly unable to fire. The fragile hope of worlds that had never known peace but now tasted pause. "They will come for us," she said quietly, stroking his hair with trembling fingers. "Every empire, every council, even my own people. They will say we broke the galaxy." He swallowed, forcing himself to sit with her help, pain etched into every movement. "Then maybe the galaxy needed breaking," he said softly, "so it could stop killing itself." The guardians shifted, their forms stabilizing as the heart responded to the soldier's survival. "The covenant has chosen," they intoned, "not ruler and subject, but partners, one to feel the suffering of the many, one to remember the value of the one." The princess closed her eyes, feeling the truth settle deep inside her. Not chains, not commands, but responsibility heavier than any crown. "I can feel them now," she whispered. "Worlds that were silenced, treaties erased, lives taken because law said they didn't matter." He reached for her hand, squeezing weakly. "Then don't let law speak louder than life ever again." A violent tremor shook the chamber, harsher than before. Alarms flaring across half-dead systems. The Guardian's attention snapped outward. "They are coming anyway," one said, desperation sharpening its ancient calm. "Those who refuse the Covenant's pause have formed a coalition. They mean to destroy the heart before it can change them." The princess stood slowly, drawing strength from the glow now woven into her blood and his, fear still present, but no longer ruling her. "If they destroy the heart," she said, "they return the galaxy to endless war. If we don't stop them," he added, "they'll prove mercy was a mistake." She looked down at him, at the human who had defied fate, law, and biology itself to stand beside her, and made her choice. "Then we meet them here," she said, voice steady and clear. "Not as executioner, not as tyrant, but as proof." The guardians paused, as if something like pride touched their ancient awareness. "The covenant can speak through you," they said, "but it will expose you, every secret, every lie your empires have buried." She lifted her chin. "Let them see." He struggled to his feet with her support, armor useless now, human and vulnerable, and yet more dangerous than any fleet. "And if they still choose war," he said quietly. She met his gaze, eyes shining with resolve. "Then history will remember who tried mercy first." The heart responded, pathways of light unfurling outward like wings. A projection forming at the chamber's center. Not a weapon, but a signal broadcast across every frequency, visible to every species. Images poured forth, unfiltered and undeniable, children marked as enemies, Laws used to justify slaughter, rulers signing death warrants with clean hands, the cost of obedience laid bare. Across the galaxy, billions watched, unable to turn away. The princess felt the strain building again, the covenant demanding truth without mercy. She staggered, and he caught her this time, holding her steady. "I've got you," he whispered, "even gods can't do this alone." The coalition fleets emerged at the veil's edge, weapons jury-rigged, commanders screaming defiance into the dark, firing anyway. The heart flared one final time, not with violence, but with clarity, and as the first shots tore into the veil, the galaxy stood on the brink of its defining moment. Not between human and alien, not between empire and rebellion, but between the comfort of fear and the terrifying courage of choosing mercy. The first shots struck the veil and vanished, not absorbed, not deflected, but undone, as if violence itself had reached a place where it no longer made sense. The coalition fleets froze in stunned disbelief as their weapons dissolved into harmless light, systems failing not through force, but refusal. Inside the heart, the princess felt the final weight of the covenant settle into place. Not crushing, not burning, but steady, like hands on her shoulders reminding her to stand tall. She leaned into the human soldier beside her, drawing strength from his presence as much as he drew it from hers. "The galaxy is listening," she whispered, voice trembling with awe and fear intertwined. He nodded, eyes fixed on the unfolding projection. "Then let's finish telling the truth." The heart responded to their shared resolve, the broadcast expanding, no longer only showing the crimes of empires, but moments of quiet defiance. Soldiers who lowered their weapons, officials who falsified orders to save lives, civilians who sheltered enemies simply because they were alive. Across countless worlds, something fragile cracked open. Not law, not fear, but certainty. In command chambers and palace halls, rulers shouted until their voices broke. Some ordered retreat, others demanded escalation that no longer obeyed them. Fleets began to fracture as captains refused commands that now felt unbearable. Soldiers looked at one another and saw people instead of targets. The princess stepped forward, her voice carried not by authority, but by resonance, heard not only in ears, but in hearts. "I was raised to believe destiny was obedience," she said, "that law was truth and mercy a flaw. I was wrong." She paused, letting the silence stretch, letting billions breathe with her. "Destiny is choice," she continued, "and law without compassion is only another weapon. My people forgot that, and so did many of yours." The human soldier joined her, standing visibly human, scarred, exhausted, unarmed. "I was taught that following orders made me strong," he said quietly, "but strength isn't obedience. It's knowing when to refuse." The covenant flared gently around them, no longer overwhelming, but supportive, like a witness rather than a judge. Somewhere in the galaxy, a warship powered down its engines and drifted, weapons silent. Then another, not all, but enough. The Guardians spoke one final time, their ancient presence beginning to fade as their purpose fulfilled. "The covenant does not rule," they intoned. "It remembers, it awakens, and then it steps aside." Their forms dissolved into light, merging with the heart itself, the structure slowly dimming, becoming inert, not destroyed, but complete. The veil calmed, its storms settling into stillness, ancient defenses powering down as if satisfied. The princess felt the covenant loosen its grip, no longer a force pressing outward, but a bond shared inwardly, just between her and the human beside her. Not rulers, not gods, but witnesses. "It's over," she whispered. He exhaled shakily, leaning into her. For now, they stood together as the galaxy reassembled itself around the pause they had forced. Not peace, not yet, but a chance. Treaties would be argued, borders redrawn. Old hatreds would not vanish overnight, but something irreversible had been done. Mercy had been proven possible. Days later, on a quiet world at the edge of mapped space, the princess stood beneath an open sky for the first time without guards, without crowns. The air smelled of unfamiliar soil and rain. She breathed deeply, savoring freedom she had never imagined. The human soldier sat nearby, arm in a sling, watching the horizon. "Guess this makes us fugitives," he said lightly. She smiled softly, sitting beside him, or founders, history has not decided yet. He glanced at her, eyes warm. Whatever it calls us, I don't regret it. Neither do I, she replied, placing her hand over his. Above them, stars burned steadily. Indifferent yet beautiful, wars would continue. Mistakes would be made. But somewhere between those stars, stories would be told. Of a human who refused to kill. Of an alien princess who chose mercy over law. And of a moment when fate itself was forced to bend. Not by conquest, not by fear, but by two beings who decided that one life mattered enough to change the galaxy.